When you start planning your trip to Churchill, you will very soon learn what the Tundra Buggy is. The Tundra Buggy is this huge box-like vehicle with giant tires that takes you out on the tundra in search of polar bears. And lucky us, for our trip, we were going to be there for 2 different Tundra Buggy tour days. Super excited because this was going to greatly increase our chance to see the polar bear. The tour starts by busing you out of town about half an hour to the home of the buggies. You walk up a platform and enter the buggy from the rear. After a brief orientation, you head off into the tundra. There are designated roads and routes to follow that once used to be old military roads. They are definitely not maintained, and you wouldn't last long without being in one of these buggies. The buggies are about 15 feet tall, and the base of the windows are 10 feet. During polar bear season in October and November, it is not uncommon for bears to actually approach the buggy. Polar bears stand between 8 and 10 feet tall, and a large bear can get his nose to the bottom of the window. In the summer months, though, there are less bears around, so it's unlikely that a bear would approach the buggy. As you journey out into the tundra, everyone is keeping their eyes open. You could see anything from artic hares, foxes, ptarmigans, caribou, and of course, polar bears. If you saw something, you would yell out and the driver would stop and get out his binoculars to check. We saw lots of polar rocks and boulder bears, as well as lots of eagles, sandhill cranes, and arctic swans. Our first notable sighting was of a single caribou our driver named Jeffrey. The caribou was pretty unfazed by us, and we got to watch him for quite a while. He was so cool to watch. I was hoping to see a caribou out here, so was super glad to see him. Another critter I was hoping to see was the ptarmigan. These birds turn snow white in the winter and are basically like an Arctic chicken. Our driver told us he thinks they are all named Kyle and played us a clip of the ptarmigans where they actually sound like they are saying Kyle, which is of course super funny to us. You are out on the buggy for about 4 to 5 hours searching for wildlife and stopping for a coffee and lunch break. For the entire time you are on the buggy, as no one is allowed to step off. I was not really enjoying the tour, as everybody wanted to stop for birds all the time. I didn't really get why we would waste our time looking at a tiny brown bird when we could be spending it searching for polar bears. Sometime during our drive, the guide informed us the summer Tundra Buggy Tour was one of the worst ways to find polar bears, and I thought, great, because this was our most expensive tour and I booked 2 of them. And at that point, I was thinking of canceling our second tour. But then, towards the end of the tour, we suddenly saw our first polar bear.
Hey, if you want a window open, get it now.
It was a mom and cub, and the bus lit up like Christmas with everybody getting their windows down and cameras out. The buggy was very bouncy with everyone excited, moving around, so it was hard to get nice flat footage. We watched the mom and cub walk across the land and then take off running down to some water. A polar bear can run 25 miles an hour and be at full speed in 3 strides. Kyle and I decided to move to the back outside deck for some better filming opportunities. By this time, the bear was pretty far away and I was relying on my camera's zoom. The cub was likely from last year and we got to watch the mother nurse it. We watched the bear for about 10 to 15 minutes and then left. I was beside myself after seeing a polar bear in the wild. The feeling was just something you can't describe, and to see a mom and cub was just so awesome. But then, on the bus ride back to town, we saw bears 3, 4, and 5. Holy cow, this was amazing. And it was a mom and 2 cubs. The mom stuck her cubs behind a ridge and we got to watch her walk to a small pond and get in and swim around effortlessly. It was so amazing. My most favorite shot of this trip was watching her get out of the water and the water just dripping off. Oh my gosh, I just love watching that. By this time, I was on cloud 9 and I wanted more bears. So we decided to rent a car and go looking by ourselves. Hi, my name is Nicole and I will be your tour guide today. I've lived in Churchill for about 4 days now. Renting a car in Churchill is really not needed unless you want to do your own exploration, and it's not like renting from Avis, so you have to temper your expectations. There's one company in town, they're a bit hard to get a hold of, the vehicle isn't given to you spotless, and there were beeps and lights flashing on the dash, but they told us it was okay. They gave us a helpful map that shows where we can go, and they also gave us a little pamphlet of self-guiding tours that we can do in the area. Our first stop today will be to the Churchill Airport. Some of you may choose to fly into Churchill. If you do, this is where you will arrive in. And look at it, there's a beautiful plane sitting there. This building out here is called the Polar Bear Jail. When polar bears do not want to leave town, they will be tranquilized and kept here. Bears can be held for up to 30 days. There are areas inside like jail cells to protect them, and then whenever they are ready to be relocated, they will be moved somewhere else other than Churchill. Currently there is one bear inside and public is not allowed to visit. Those right there are some bear traps. On our left we have the Hudson Bay. Hudson Bay is salt water, and in the wintertime it completely will freeze over.
Along the water, it may look beautiful and you may be tempted to walk down on the rocks. However, from what we've seen, polar bears are very good at blending in with the rocks. It's highly recommended you don't do exactly that, because you could walk down to the water and then one of the rocks could stand up, and then you're in a lot of trouble. So we'll be enjoying most of this tour from the comfort of this truck.
For those of you wondering why we might be going off by ourselves in polar bear country, not to worry. There are several vehicles that you pass on this road. You are not completely alone. Unfortunately, our private polar bear tour was unsuccessful despite our efforts. We met other people out there who had luck, but not us. The car was really expensive to rent. We got a discount from our hotel, and it was about $100 for the day plus gas, which was about another $55, but even still, I would do it again. For our second Tundra Buggy Tour, the weather was cold, windy, and rainy, making it really hard to see anything out the side windows, but we sat right behind the driver so we could at least see a little bit. This buggy is actually electric. It was pretty cool how he used a touch screen to shift and we could watch the battery level. Right now they have several electric buggies and they are working on converting more. Although the weather was grim, it was much sooner than our first tour that we saw Polar bear number 6. This one was actually laying down looking just like a big white rock, but this rock moved. This bear was also close enough that Kyle was able to film from his iPhone while I filmed from my camera. We followed him for a good half an hour just watching him wander about. Brave souls went out onto the back deck for some better viewing, but the weather was pretty brutal out there. This bear taught me how easy it is for them to hide and blend in. Even though polar bears are huge, and fun fact for you, they are actually the 4th largest land mammal, but they can hide so much more than you would expect. Out on the tundra, it's pretty darn flat, or so it appears, and barren, but man, if that bear isn't moving, you could easily miss it. It was pretty fun watching this bear for as long as we did. People calmed down on the bus, so I was able to get some pretty good footage. These animals are just so incredible, and it's really sad to see their numbers decreasing. About 10 years ago, there used to be about 1,200 bears in the Churchill area, and now there are only about 800. Polar bears rely on the ice to be able to hunt to eat. Their main diet consists of certain types of seals that live out in the water and sea ice. Churchill is popular for polar bears because it is the first spot on the Hudson Bay to freeze, which means after the summer thaw, it's the soonest that they can get out to eat. A female is able to carry a fertilized egg in her body, however, the egg will only develop if she has put on enough fat. Another fun fact for you, females can actually carry 2 fertilized eggs from 2 different males and give birth to 2 cubs of different dads, but only if she has gained enough. Otherwise, her body will not allow one or both the eggs to develop. Even though our guide said the Tundra Buggy Summer Tour is one of the worst ways to see polar bears, I am still glad that we went on both of these tours. Going out into the tundra is really unique, and seeing this landscape is something to appreciate. Between the 2 tours, we saw a total of 6 bears, which is super incredible, and we had completely different experiences with each sighting. It was also cool to learn that Nunavut's boundary is the intertidal zone of the Hudson Bay, and for part of our buggy excursion, we were within that, so technically, we got to visit Nunavut twice! Stay tuned for our next videos where we get to show you some more awesome things that Churchill has to offer, more bears, more whales, and northern lights. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe.